What's up? What's up, everybody? We are live, and I wanted to talk about the Biohacking Conference. Just got back. Was a 3-day event down in Orlando. Had a good time. In all honesty, I wish there would have been way more presentations, but they basically did like these breakout synergy presentations where you can only go see like one presentation at a time, and they only had 2 sessions a day. So there was a lot of speakers I really wanted to learn from, meet and learn from, but didn't get the chance. Regardless, it was still a good event and got some great takeaways that I wanted to share with you all. So let's talk about day one. So day one, I got to meet the CEO of Microbiome Labs. And it was pretty cool because he had a whole panel and presentation on gut dysbiosis. And dysbiosis is basically when you have an unhealthy gut, essentially, right? So he basically defined gut dysbiosis as when you're missing keystone species within your gut. Very important species that are important for all types of metabolic processes and immune function and things like that. What was really interesting about his presentation, though, with regards to leaky gut, was that you can actually measure, the lipopolysaccharides in your blood to basically diagnose leaky gut, which is very interesting because if you are suffering from gut issues and if you really want to know if you have leaky gut, there is a blood marker you can probably have your doctor run for you, which is LBS, which stands for, what does LBS stand for? It's basically lipo binding. I don't have it in front of me. Let me see. I think I have it here. Give me one sec. All right, here we go. Lipopolysaccharide binding protein. That's what it stands for, and that's what you want to run to see if you have leaky gut. If you're getting all unexplained issues, if you're suffering from depression, anxiety, weight gain, skin, psoriasis, eczema, any of those things, you can look at the LBS in your blood and see if there's lipopolysaccharides that are leaking that are triggering your immune system. Because essentially, you have this tight cell junction in your gut, which is only one cell thick. Like, it's not very thick at all. So when you're eating grains and you're eating all types of inflammatory foods, it's very easy for that thing to break open. And once it breaks open, you're going to have proteins leaking through your gut, which then your immune system is going to start attacking it, thinking that it's protecting you, and it ends up causing a lot of issues. And you can measure this from looking at inflammatory cytokines, TNF alpha, IL-6, IL-1 beta. These are all things you can look at. So his presentation was really cool, and they basically had a framework of how to treat leaky gut, right, and how to basically heal from leaky gut. And his basic philosophy was basically recondition, reinforce, and rebuild, right? And so the reconditioning starts with basically introducing important species. Now, I am actually an affiliate of Microbiome Labs, and I'm going to put their link right here. But if you want to recondition the gut, one of the very important things to do is to use a really good probiotic. And you want to use more spore-based, because a lot of these probiotics on the market, especially the ones you buy in grocery stores, they're not spore-based, and they have all these other probiotics that can cause all types of symptoms, histamine reactions, and things like that in your gut. The spore-based ones are very, very tolerable. I use them myself. And they even have a spore-based formula for your pets, which I thought was really cool. So if you have dogs or cats, probably a good idea to give them some of that stuff too. Again, these are spore-based probiotics. These are probiotics that exist in soil. And with our soil being depleted today, we're exposed to way less of them, and us living indoors, we're just not getting enough of these things. So these are very important, and they have plenty of clinical studies showing that when you introduce these spore-based probiotics into your gut, they actually increase these keystone species, right? They create diversity, which is what you want in your gut. I don't think anyone can agree today. There's not enough research, there's not enough data, there's not enough science to basically tell you what a healthy microbiome looks like. But there's one thing that we know, that diversity creates better health. And so reconditioning with spore-based probiotics is a good thing. Now, they have the reinforce. Now, the reinforce is basically feeding the gut with what they call oligosaccharides. I personally am not a big fan of this. I think if you could try it for yourself and it's something that you may want to try, I think if you have really severe gut issues, I think feeding fiber to your gut, I'm sure some of you have probably heard me talk about that before, is not a good idea. So I would be hesitant. I'd be very hesitant with doing that, but it's something that you can try. They got good data behind it. And using those oligosaccharides can create more diversity. And they have some studies. I haven't looked into those studies to vet them myself and see what it is that they're doing, but he says that it is actually increasing short chain fatty acids, which is a good thing. So that's something that you may, want to try cautiously if you do try the oligosaccharide formula. Again, that's called their mega mucosa formula. You want to go very, very slow with it because, when you start growing things in there, it could cause some issues. And then next was the third process was rebuild. And so for rebuilding the gut, he's basically saying that you want to use polyphenols, you want to use amino acids, and you want to use immunoglobulins. As far as polyphenols go, I am a good fan. I'm a big fan of the product here from Code Age, which I'm going to put here in my notes. Give me 1 second. And I just put the Microbiome Labs in the comment. The polyphenols you're going to see here in the code. This is from Code Age. You can use Gabe 2021 and save, I believe you save 10% off from Code Age if you want to use them. I love their polyphenol blend. It's something I take that I stack with bulletproof coffee. Again, polyphenols are not something that are highly absorbable, and a lot of them are fat soluble. So taking them with some type of fat coffee is a great idea. And, it keeps you in the fasted state, creates a form of hormesis, which is great for biodiversity, which I want to talk about hormesis at a later point in time. They talk about amino acids, and he has Microbiome Labs, which you can find on the link. They have a specific formula of amino acids that you can use to help rebuild the gut, and immunoglobulins. And immunoglobulins, you can get from colostrum. If you're not dairy sensitive, I would highly recommend going to Heart and Soil, looking up their immunoglobulins. But if you are dairy sensitive, then you want to take non-dairy ones, which Microbiome Labs does have. And I do take those whenever I need to recover from any gut issues. So that was day one of the biohacking conference. Now, the next part is nootropics, which is a pretty interesting topic. And basically, Dave Asprey, and came up with his favorite nootropics and brought a quick little list of here for those of you interested in them. So one of the nootropics that he talked about was Uridine Monophosphates. And basically, this is something that you can stack with choline and you can stack with DHA. And he recommends anywhere from 250 to 500 milligrams a day. And again, we're talking about nootropics here, right? So these are things that are going to improve memory, improve brain function, improve cognitive function, improve focus, things like that. The next one is Myristain. He didn't have a dosage for Myristain. It's a basic polyphenol, comes from a plant. There wasn't a specific dosage on this, but this is something you're interested up. You can look it up, Myristain. I'll put it here in the comments section. Myristain is how it is spelled. Then you have Silastris paniculatus. This is another nootropic he recommends. You can take about 60 milligrams a day with or without food. Another one is nicotine, which nicotine is one of my favorite nootropics. It's something that I like to take anywhere from 1 to 2 milligrams of nicotine per day. You can do it. Lucy gum is one way to get it, which Lucy gum is about 3 milligrams. So maybe you want to cut it in half when you do it. And then you have the toothpicks. They also sell nicotine sprays, which they're harder to get. But if you can find those are even better because they won't stain your teeth. But I love nicotine. Nicotine turns my brain on, makes me focus. Now, another one, very, very powerful one, is called Anaracticam. It is also fat soluble, so something you want to take with your bulletproof coffee. And you can take this anywhere from 5 to 750 milligrams twice a day. I have personally taken Anaracticam. It's not something that I have in my stack. Probably something I should have in my stack, but it's not something I have in my current stack. But I know when I've taken it, to do big presentations and things like that. My brain lights up like a Christmas tree. It's amazing. Another one, which is pretty cool, is Methylene Blue. I don't know if you've ever seen the pictures of people with their tongues blue, but Methylene Blue is basically this compound that will turn your tongue blue, but it acts as a methyl donor. So basically in your electron transport chain, it'll take electrons that need to come out from one side and put them to another side so energy can continue flowing. So Methylene Blue is a cool nootropic. I tried it for the first time actually at the Biohacking conference, and it was pretty cool. Probably something that I want to experiment with. It is very cheap if you just buy the liquid. From what I understand, you can probably buy a bottle for maybe 10, 20 bucks and it can last you a month or two. So that's a cool one. Now, Modafinil. I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard about Modafinil. It is more of a pharmaceutical type compound. I'm not a personal fan of Modafinil. Dave recommends 100 to 200 milligrams for those who need the support. Not something that I personally take. I want to stay away from the pharmaceuticals personally. But if you are struggling with brain functions or brain issues, this might be something to help you take over the edge. But if you're perfectly healthy and you're just looking to up your game, I don't know if I would use Modafinil personally. And one that I really want to add to the stack is called Theacrine. So Theacrine. And it's a cousin of coffee. So it has very similar benefits to coffee. And you can take about 300 milligrams. And when you stack it with coffee, you get this very nice synergistic effect. I think this was probably between that and Anaracticam. I think those are my favorite nootropics that I have not really used very much that I want to continue to try. So that was day one of the Biohacking conference. Now, also we had Jim Quick coming out there. So Jim Quick was on day one as well. And he just had a presentation on really learning how to learn. If you guys have never done Jim Quick's speed reading course or read his book Limitless, I highly recommend it. The speed reading course was a game changer for me. I've been able to, I've set a goal of reading a book a quarter. I don't think I've ever hit the goal yet. It's been 2 quarters since I started. But I've been close. I've been reading, 10, 11, 12 books a quarter, which is way more than I had ever read before. And I found that to be a game changer for me and my learning abilities. So fan of that. Now, day two was interesting. Day two, so Dr. Pompa came up and talked, and he talked about just how detox is basically one of the most important biohacks today. And some of the problems that we're having today as society is that we're exposed to so many chemicals. In my book, The Superhuman Lifestyle, I have a whole entire chapter just dedicated to this because it's so important. And we're getting exposed to so many chemicals that our bodies are just, our toxic burden is completely overloaded and bombarded with toxins. Even as a baby, these toxins are flowing through the umbilical cord, and when the EWG has done actual studies on measuring the umbilical cord, they're finding over 200 some toxins flowing through this, infecting the babies. The babies are being born with mercury, which is no coincidence why you're seeing a huge spike in autism and all types of brain dysfunctions and brain disorders, right? So one interesting thing he also talked about was that 95% of people today have an autoimmune condition. And a lot of them are just not diagnosed yet. So I thought that was very interesting and alarming. And another issue is that you've heard me talk about 60% of people today have a chronic disease, or about 50%, I'm sorry. One thing that's alarming though is that 90% of people over the age of 65 have a chronic disease. That should wake you up. Like, you don't want to get to become 65 or 70 and have chronic disease, right? You want to be thriving. And even if you have no desire to live to 120 or 130 years like I do, if you're going to get to 80 or 90, why not get there gracefully, right? And get there in a great state and increase your health span, not just your lifespan. So Dr. Pompa he had an interesting story. He was basically intoxicated with heavy metals and just could not function at all. He was a very intense athlete and was, biking hundreds of miles a week, weight training, and basically just lost all desire and energy for life, could not do anything. And it ended up being that he had heavy metal toxicity. And he talked about his process and his experience with detoxing from these heavy metals, and used a couple different supplements and binders to do that, also with some fasting. But yeah, I thought that was a very interesting presentation that he had as well. He also had a presentation which I thought was really cool on hormesis. And so basically hormesis is a stress, right? A positive stressor, but there's a load to it, right? So like if you stress yourself too much, then you get the opposite effect of what you want, right? But a good positive stressor actually will make your immune system, will make your body and make your mitochondria actually produce more energy and create more beneficial compounds that are necessary to help you thrive, right? That's why exercise works, right? So, when you lift weight and you strain the muscle, your body will actually create human growth hormone and other things to help repair it, right? Collagen synthesis, all these things that you need. But there's a threshold, right? Like if you're constantly straining your muscle, you can get injured or you're going to get the opposite effects of what you want. So he talked about hormesis when it came to diet and fasting, which I thought was very interesting because he used an example of Chernobyl. And how in Chernobyl, everyone thought that the whole entire ecosystem was going to go to shit for hundreds of years. There was not going to be any life there whatsoever. And actually, it's a thriving place right now, right? There is more diversity, and the ecosystem has come back there better than ever, right? Which is interesting, which is how is that possible? Well, his thesis is that it's the hormesis effect, right? There's all these stressors coming into the environment, and now they're getting a chance to recover. And as they're recovering, they're getting stronger, right? So it doesn't kill you, make you stronger. And same thing with the oil spill in the Gulf, right? He kind of uses the oil spill in the Gulf example as well, as how everyone thought, everything there was going to be horrible. And actually what ended up happening was, there's these special bacteria that started eating the oil. And then from there, shrimp started eating them, and then fish started eating the shrimp. And then basically life again is thriving there again. And so this concept of hormesis is interesting because you want to use hormesis. And I've talked about this with my clients when it comes to keto and when it comes to using glucose for energy. You never want to be in one state, right? You constantly want to keep the body adapting, because the more it has to adapt, the more you keep it on its feet and the more hormetic effect you're getting from this, right? So let's say you're trying to lose weight and someone tells you to go on the keto diet, and you go on the keto diet and you get amazing results month 1, but then month 2, you start plateauing and you start realizing that, okay, well, it's not working as good as it was month 1. Why? So his thesis is that it's a hormetic effect. And so on month 1, you're getting all this hormesis because it's a brand new diet. It's making the body adapt. It's making the body live off ketones. It's doing all these good things. But if you stay in that state, that becomes the new norm. And now it's no longer this stressful hormetic state for the body. So you constantly want to be switching it up. And he has this feast famine type diet approach where you want to do a feast and a famine at least once a week on both sides, right? So say you do a regular intermittent fasting type diet 4 days a week or 5 days a week, and then at least 1 day a week you're doing a feast where you're just, taking down carbs and protein like a champ. And on another day you want to do a famine where you're not having anything, right? And this constantly keeps the body in a hormetic type state. And one of his protocols as well for detoxing heavy metals and just regenerating the cells in general was fasting. I'm actually trying, after listening to his talk, I was quite inspired from the talk. And he was talking about how stem cells are crucial to regenerating the cells. And there was a lot of talk in the Biohacking Conference about using stem cell therapies. And many doctors, including Dr. Mercola, were basically saying that this is the latest and greatest when it comes to biohacking and reversing your age. But regardless, you can get stem cells from fasting. And so I am currently doing a 5-day water fast. It's something I've never done. The most I've done is 3 days. But he basically said that the stem cell production really doesn't start happening until day 4 and 5. And that's really where you want to get it in. So I'm trying it now. I'm actually on day 2 of my water fast, and we will see how that goes. Lastly, on day 3, there was a talk about kryptonites and some of the biggest kryptonites today in society. And from the panel of all these doctors, basically the 3 type kryptonites are basically mold, glyphosate, and mercury, right? Those are the 3 big ones. And so there's hundreds of millions of buildings today that are contaminated with mold. And mold is going to mess with your microbiome, right? It's going to attack the mitochondria. It's going to make you weak, brain fog, depressed, anxious, joint pain, all types of things. So you really, really, really want to have a good hold on mold, making sure that you inspect your homes, inspect your offices, inspect where you work for mold. If you're exposed to a moldy building, get the hell out, right? It's gonna really, really make you weak. Not a good thing. Glyphosate was the next one. Now, glyphosate is found in Roundup, right? It's this pesticide that they're spraying, and that Monsanto basically says that, doesn't affect human cells. But what they don't understand is that it affects your microbiome, and your microbiome affects everything else. And there's plenty of science and plenty of scientists who have been, shouting this and leading this battle, trying to get glyphosate out of our foods. But unfortunately, right now, it is being sprayed everywhere. It is even in organic foods, you're getting consumption of glyphosate. It's in grains, it's in corn, it's in soy. All your monocrops are pretty much contaminated with glyphosate. And even in honey. I probably want to do a show on that later, just because honey is an amazing food. And now you have to be careful with getting glyphosate in honey. So we are buying glyphosate-free honey to kind of avoid glyphosate. And another really tricky little sneaky part where glyphosate lingers, where a lot of people don't know about, and most supplement companies aren't even testing for it, and it's sad, is gelatin. So if you are getting gelatin in your supplements, you really, really want to be cautious there and make sure that your supplement companies are testing for glyphosate. I would probably tell you most of them are not. I would be highly surprised if some of them are. And if they're getting the gelatin, you want to make sure it's from a 100% grass-fed source. Most of them say like antibiotic free. That's not good enough, in my opinion. So I really avoid gelatin in most supplements, unless I know it's coming from a grass-fed place, like those at Heart and Soil, those at Ancestral Supplements, things like that. And yes, and then they were talking about different supplements you can use to improve and get over. And then so we talked about the three biggest kryptonites, which was mold, glyphosate, and mercury. Issue with mercury is that a lot of the mercury is coming from dental cavitations, right? And in dentistry, they are doing a lot of things that are causing a lot of people to get sick. So you got cavity fillings that are causing all type of mercury toxicity in people. I actually have a client that's got a ton of them, and he's got all types of gut issues, and he's been taking proton pump inhibitors to reduce his acid because he suffers from all this acid reflux. And so, I've been guiding him to get rid of the metals and to get rid of the proton pump inhibitors and start increasing hydrochloric acid, because that is really, really important to heal. And these metals just mess with your microbiome. So, if you are having gut issues, sometimes we look at the gut as the cause, but sometimes it's not the cause. Sometimes it's the metals that are causing the gut issues that are then causing all your other issues. And so we have to detoxify the metals so then we can heal the gut, and then the body can restore to homeostasis. Some important supplements when you're healing, glutathione was pretty much raved about by many of the doctors being used, liposomal glutathione to be precise. Phosphatidylcholine, which is used to heal the cell membranes, was also an important supplement. And then Cytodetox. Cytodetox is a supplement created by Dr. Pompa, which is basically like a folate mineral that kind of acts as a catcher's mitt inside the gut. So that way, when you are fasting and you're basically turning on your autophagy and turning on your cleaning mechanisms in the body, you have this binder that can basically take the stuff out of the gut, so that way it's not recycled into bile and causing auto intoxication. And that's pretty much it from the biohacking conference. There were some cool technologies I got to use. Got to do the infrared sauna, which I love. Got to do an NAD suppository, which is where you stick NAD, up your butt, and you get way more bioavailability for the NAD. There was hyperbaric chambers in there. There was cryo chambers. Got to do the happy and the brain tap, which the brain tap is really cool because you put these glasses on and it kind of creates this very relaxing state. It's supposed to increase alpha waves so you can, be in this higher state of operation. And I'm an experienced meditator. I've been meditating for 13 years. And it was definitely pretty relaxing. It's something that I would like to add to my nighttime protocol for sleep, because I know it can greatly improve my sleep. Even though I sleep really, really well, but I can definitely see the benefits from it. And there's this cool ARX machine that I got to use, which is basically this machine that essentially makes you like lift as high and as heavy as you basically can. And with like 5-10 minutes a week, you can basically accomplish what you would accomplish in an hour. Or an hour and a half's worth of time. So it was really cool because the ARX machines, like, you're pushing as hard as you can. Like, let's say you're doing bench, you're pushing as hard as you can going up. And then the machine adjusts the resistance. So on the way going down, you have to hold it. And it's also really, really, really hard going down. I was able to do, I think 4 to 5 reps at the very most. And with the 5-minute exercise, I was exhausted. So that's pretty cool. And then ultimately, I think the big recap from the Biohacking Conference, one of the major takeaways, it's just that happiness and love is like the ultimate biohack, right? Like, you can do all this stuff to make you feel great. You can do all this stuff, to improve brain performance or improve sexual performance, improve anti-aging or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, if your heart isn't full of love and you aren't happy, none of it really matters, right? Like, and the fundamentals are actually more important than any biohack as well, right? Just making sure you're getting good quality sleep, making sure you're exercising, making sure your diet is on point. Like, if you got those 3 things right, then you have a good practice that fills your heart with love, whether it's meditation, whether it's prayer, whatever that may be. You're in a really good spot. And then the biohacks and all these other things can just enhance and be the cherries on top to really take you to superhuman performance. But I don't believe these things should ever be the basis or the foundation of trying to reach superhuman status and performance. So, anyways, just wanted to do this quick recap. Hope you all had a great weekend. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. But if not, I will catch you on the other side. Sending you guys lots of love, and hope you liked the quick Facebook Live today on the Biohacking Conference. All right, guys. Peace.